Welcome to our latest news update. Today we have some exciting and important stories to share with you. First up,
Ukraine's defenders have defeated the 72nd Russian Brigade near Bakhmut, liberating territory and capturing prisoners. In other news,
Japan is in talks to open a NATO office in Tokyo, according to the foreign minister. The Pentagon has also confirmed the downing of a Russian hypersonic missile by Ukraine,
which is a significant development in the ongoing conflict. Meanwhile,
Putin has announced a call-up of Russians to military training camps in Turkey.
President Erdogan has given public workers a 45% pay rise in the country's tight election race. Finally,
a military object found in a Polish forest has been identified as a Russian missile by the media. These are all important stories that we will be discussing in more detail, so let's get started. The 3rd Assault Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine defeated the units of the 72nd Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces near the city of Bakhmut, liberated part of the territory and captured the occupiers.
Andriy Beletsky, the founder and first commander of the Azov Regiment and the leader of the National Corps, confirmed the victory on Telegram.
The 6th and 8th companies of the 72nd Brigade of the Russian Federation were completely destroyed, and a significant number of armored combat vehicles were destroyed, and prisoners were captured.
The so-called 3rd Assault Detachment of the Wagner PMC suffered heavy losses. The offensive actions were conducted in a strip 3 kilometers wide and 2 kilometers and 600 meters deep, and all the territory is now liberated from the Russian occupying forces.
During 2 days of offensive operations, the attack aircraft of the 3rd Assault Brigade killed 64 occupiers, and another 87 halfway towards the previously mentioned ones, and 5 Russians were captured. From defeating the Russian brigade to opening a NATO office in Tokyo, it seems like Ukraine's defenders are really expanding their territory these days.
Japan is in talks to open a NATO liaison office in Asia, the country's foreign minister announced in an exclusive interview with CNN.
The move comes as a response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has made the world less stable, according to Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi.
Japan is not a treaty member of NATO, but the move sends a message that the bloc's Asia-Pacific partners are engaging in a very steady manner with NATO.
The opening of a NATO liaison office in Japan is likely to attract criticism from the Chinese government, which has previously warned against such a move.
The liaison office will enable discussions with NATO's security partners, such as South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, on geopolitical challenges, emerging and disruptive technologies, and cyber threats.
Japan's regional security environment is described as severe and complex, with increased Russian aggression, a nuclear-armed North Korea, and a rising China. Well, it looks like Japan is trying to cozy up to NATO while Russia is getting shot down by Ukraine. Talk about a love triangle gone wrong. The Pentagon confirmed that Ukrainian air defenses downed a Russian hypersonic Kinzhal missile.
The confirmation was made by Pentagon Press Secretary Brig. General Pat Ryder in a Tuesday briefing. Russian President Vladimir Putin had previously described the Kinzhal as a hypersonic weapon that Western air defenses couldn't intercept.
NATO and U.S. reports had cast doubt on the Kinzhal's status as a true hypersonic weapon.
The Ukrainian Air Force confirmed on Saturday that a Kinzhal had been downed for the first time since they had been used against Ukraine.
The Pentagon announced a $1.2 billion defense package on Tuesday that included air defense systems and munitions for Ukraine. Well, it looks like Ukraine is really getting the hang of this whole missile defense thing. Maybe they should offer some training to their neighbor to the east, who seems to be calling up their entire population for military training.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has called for reservists to attend military training camps.
The call-up is for citizens of the Russian Federation who are part of the reserve army.
The training will take place in the Armed Forces of Russia, National Guard of Russia, state security bodies, and the Federal Security Service.
The government claims that these measures are routine and held annually to improve combat training.
In April, CNN reported that the Kremlin was struggling to form a prepared military manpower and feared a new wave of mobilization due to the current mood of the population.
The announcement has raised concerns about Russia's military intentions and potential future actions. From Russia with love to Turkey with money, it seems like world leaders are trying to bribe their citizens with different tactics. Let's see how this plays out in the upcoming elections. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced a 45% pay increase for over 700,000 public workers ahead of the country's upcoming election.
The move is seen as an attempt to attract voters in a tight election race dominated by economic issues.
Erdogan's economic policies have become unpopular due to high inflation and a tumbling lira. The decision affects more than 700,000 public workers, who will now be paid a minimum monthly wage of 15,000 Turkish lira, 700 euros.
The announcement has caused criticism on Twitter, with some users protesting that public workers will now earn more than public engineers.
The move is unlikely to assuage doubts about whether Erdogan will ever get serious about tackling runaway inflation. Well, it looks like Erdogan is trying to buy votes with a 45% pay rise for public workers. Meanwhile, in Poland, they found a Russian missile in the forest. Talk about taking the term campaign trail to a whole new level. A Russian Kh-55 missile was found in a Polish forest in April, according to 2 Polish media outlets. Poland has been on alert for possible spillover of weaponry from the war in Ukraine.
2 people were killed near the border last November by what Warsaw concluded was a misfired Ukrainian air defense missile.
Polish authorities had previously announced the discovery of a military object in a forest near the village of Zamosk. Private broadcasters RMF-FM and Polsat News reported that the object was a Kh-55 missile, citing unnamed sources.
The Kh-55 is an air-launched cruise missile developed by the Soviet Union that is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead.